name, title, and organization into the chat. That's helpful for us for the notes. And then also, since you are doing that, and you all can see it, and we should be able to as well here, we're just gonna go around in the room and introduce ourselves, that way. So Angelina, do you wanna go first?
Angelina Searles, Town of Colony, Senior Resources Department.
Judy DeHota Taylor, Saratoga County Department of Aging Youth Services.
Rima Shania, Transportation Planner, Capital Region Transportation Council. And Carrie Ward with the Transportation Council.
I'm Sandy Miswitz. I'm the Executive Director of the Transportation Council.
And I'm Mark Castiglione. I'm the Executive Director of the Regional Planning Commission.
Super. So now that we did introductions, I do have an addition to the agenda, and that is, we talked about at the last meeting a little bit changes. So for example, we are streaming live to YouTube. And Sandy wanted to go over some additional changes with you all. So you should be able to see the presentation. Can somebody in the Zoom confirm that you're seeing that? I see Denise nodding. Okay,
Okay.
Yes, I'm seeing that.
thank you. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Carrie. So good afternoon, everyone. I was trying to be brief. So we've been making a lot of changes here at the Transportation Council, sort of modernizing our practices and putting more policies in place with how we run things. And one of the topic areas that came up over this last few years since I took over as executive director is with respect to how we're operating our advisory committees. And we have 5 advisory committees here, and you can move to the next slide, Carrie. We have 5 advisory committees here at the council. The now named Human Services Transportation Advisory Committee being one of them. And each one of them for many years were run completely differently. Some were exclusively in person and no live stream at all. Some have been live streaming and broadcasting their meetings. Some have very different ways of operating. So basically this, we're developing a policy for how all of our advisory committee meetings are going to be run, and you as participants, what your roles and responsibilities are. And this is just more to put to paper, you know, the do's, the don'ts, what you're going to be involved with, what you're likely not going to be involved with, and hopefully provide some clarity for participants moving forward. So on the screen, you'll see the 5 advisory committees: the Active Transportation, the Freight, this one, Human Services Transportation, our Regional Operations and Safety Advisory Committee, and our Equity Advisory Committee, which is currently on hiatus, but we're bringing back at some point in 2024. Hopefully with a renewed mission. So again, we're clarifying the roles and responsibilities and trying to have consistency in how these groups operate. Next slide.
Hey, could you just say what active transportation is?
For those that don't know, active transportation really refers to your bicycle, pedestrian, micromobility type planning. Anything that's in the sort of non-motorized realm to some degree. So, you know, in summary, and there is a more detailed document that we'll make available to the committees once it's adopted, but the primary role of responsibilities groups, we certainly want to maintain the networking that goes on in these working groups or advisory committees. But specifically, when it comes to some of our federally required transportation products, and there's a lot of acronyms on this slide, so I'll just briefly walk through them. The MTP refers to our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. That's the regional transportation plan for the Capital District, or the Capital Region. And we're actually going to be updating that this year. So this committee will have an opportunity to weigh in on that, and some of the policies, and some of which is tied to the coordinated plan that was just recently updated. And some of this might represent some new thinking even since the coordinated plan was adopted. So, you know, there'll be definitely some opportunities for you folks to weigh in on that. Our UPWP is our Unified Planning Work Program, and that document guides the staff work that goes on here at the council. So, you know, when it comes to like managing this group or coordinating the 5310 program or whatever these sort of things are, these activities that we do as planners, particularly for Carrie and for Rima, since they're the faces of this group, are identified in the UPWP, and you have an opportunity to weigh in on that and sort of the planning work we do as well. Then we have our Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP, which is the capital program of projects. So for most of the folks in this room, you probably have most contact with that when the 5310 projects are selected, they get added to our Transportation Improvement Program. But there's also a public involvement piece to that document build. Then there's the congestion management process and our public participation plan. The congestion management process is just as it might sound if you're familiar with that term, but it's really how we deal with traffic in the capital region. And then our public participation plan is actually out for public review right now. And that really outlines how the public is able to engage with us here at the council and vice versa, how we engage with you all. So those are some of the core products that you folks will have the opportunity to weigh in on as participants in this working group. Some additional initiatives, we do a number of regional planning studies here. Probably the most significant is the Vision Zero Safety Action Plan that we'll be working on this year. This is one of the federally funded programs through the new infrastructure law that really focuses on reducing or eliminating fatalities and serious injuries on our roadway network. So there's definitely going to be a whole range of ways that we look at safety. And groups like this will have an opportunity to weigh in on that, on those activities related to the development of that plan. We also have here community planning and linkage program studies, which are typically more corridor-based studies or community-wide trail studies. Maybe they're zoning projects, but when you think about this group and what the intersection is with some of the work you folks do, when you think about citing senior facilities, right? And one of the issues is they're often put out in the fringe and not in places where you can easily connect transportation. These are the kinds of things that the linkage program can help take a look at and give you an opportunity to weigh in on. So that's another group of planning initiatives that we get involved with here in the advisory committees. Next slide. That's good.
It's frozen.
There you go. Another way that, the advisory committees can weigh in is when we do the update of our whole capital program, the TIP, with all the detailed sort of construction projects for transportation. You folks can weigh in on the consistency of those with a planning study. And in this group, the coordinated plan would be that planning document. And that's one way that this group will be able to weigh in on the development of our transportation improvement program. And then at the request of our members, we're an organization that has 25 member entities, the big cities, all 8 cities, DOT, CDTA, Regional Planning Commission, number of communities throughout the region, port, the airport, et cetera. There's a number of initiatives that they all do, and these are just some examples on the slide where they may come to this group to ask for input, like on planning and environmental linkage studies, so like related to the Reimagining 787 study, or the state transportation master plan, or the freight master plan. I know there's an aging plan statewide that's on this agenda today. So those are the kinds of things that would come to this group for discussion. And you always have there's always things that pop up. So we want to make sure we have the opportunity to have this group weigh in on different things on request. Next slide. So the main odds is really just to put to paper some of the things that have happened over time here, and maybe not necessarily related to the participants of this group, may have happened in other groups and other situations, but we want to just make sure that we documented some of the things that the advisory committee participants should not be doing. You don't make decisions on behalf of the council. You don't speak to the media representing yourself as a member of the council. You don't use our logos, our letterhead, or other things without my consent, unless it's a publicly available document, right? So for example, you can certainly share the coordinated plan with whomever you want. That's perfectly fine. We've had situations where well-meaning people build social media pages to make it look like us, and it's not us. That's what we're trying to say in this particular bullet. Next slide. We've had situations in other groups where they like to comment on the design details of transportation capital projects, representing themselves as a member of these advisory committees. We don't allow that. You know, if there's a public comment period by a municipality on a project, that is the place to comment on the design details of a project. It's not done through this, through these committees. And the use of our contact list, so, you know, we don't, they are proprietary. I mean, we don't allow them to be used to solicit for lobbying or to sign petitions or these sorts of things. So, you know, we want to make sure that folks understand that you don't reuse our mass email list for purposes other than the business related to the council. Next slide. And so how the meetings are to be conducted, this shouldn't be anything new to you folks. They're open to anyone. There's no appointment process on these committees. We usually have one of our planning committee members who is a municipal representative or a staff contact from an agency like Mark, for example, be involved in these groups. Our staff is going to continue managing the meetings, and we're going to limit the discussion to the agenda items. So kind of a new thing is that if there's other things that folks want to talk about, and sometimes we've had this happen at meetings where somebody has a particular pet issue and they want to come and kind of make their point, we'll have a comment period and you register to speak, and that way we don't run into a situation where a touchy issue kind of overruns the meeting. So we will have a registration process for that. We'll make sure as a staff that we post the agendas and materials related to the meeting on our website and make them available a week prior, so everybody has time to decide whether they want to attend or not. Broadcasting them live, so this is, I guess, the first time this group has done this today, but that will be a matter of routine for all of them. They'll be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So let's say there was a detailed conversation here and you want to go back. I remember so-and-so said something about this. You will now have the recording to go back and look at. So that's one of the benefits of recording them. We also will be accepting written comments, and we'll make sure that the meeting dates are made available on our website and our newsletter, on social media, also hopefully to generate more interest into the advisory committees. Next slide. So at this point, you know, I just wanted to share that with you to see if you had any questions or concerns. We're bringing this new policy to our planning committee for their approval in February, and then ultimately our policy board at the beginning of March. So if you have any questions or concerns, let us know. I think the biggest change, you know, we don't want to stifle conversations, and we certainly don't want to have anyone feel like, ooh, I gotta be careful what I'm saying now because I'm being recorded. But, you know, we definitely want to make sure that we're being transparent to the public on the conversations here, because these groups are the ways the public can engage with us. That's it. So if you have any questions, any comments, let me know.
Any questions for Sandy? I think that's a no.
I think that's a no. I thank you for your time. I know that's kind of a dry overview, but I think it'll be helpful in the future to avoid some of the challenges we've had in some other situations that didn't involve this working group, or this advisory committee. So thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sandy.
So the next thing I had on the agenda, to be able to share a screen too,
See you.
was the meeting notes from the last meeting, which I believe I emailed out, but I should be sharing them right now. This is a little bit of a new format, just to make it easier for us to document the meetings. We are counting everybody's attendance as part of our match stuff to match our federal dollars. So that's why the big table at the top with people's names and titles and organizations. But the rest of it's the same as what we've been doing. So unless anyone had any issues for those, we will quote unquote finalize them and I'll put them up on the website as like the actual notes from that meeting.
They look good to me.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Anybody have any issues? Super. Okay. The next thing I had on here was the master plan for aging. So I have been going to the transportation subcommittee, which is part of like community and use and transportation, something like that. And the subcommittee reports are due this month. So, you know, within the next 2 days. And I believe there was an interim report that was due out in January before now, and I have looked for it, but I didn't see it. So that's all the update I have, but I know there's some others of us who are participating in those, so if there's other things that you may want to update on, you're welcome to.
I've neglected to attend my subcommittee meetings
Oh, boy.
due to conflicts for a couple months. But it seemed like they were moving along.
Mm-hmm. There is a technology subcommittee or subgroup, which is some kind of technology group. They send out their recommendations to the other subcommittees and, so they're talking about like a kind of similar to what we talk about here with the whole, like being able to share rides or clients and different organizations and different clients' information so that agencies can refer people to each other. There was no mention of transportation or billing, like to be able to directly provide services through the system and do billing through it. It seemed more, maybe more like information sharing. But that went out, but I haven't heard any discussion from the transportation group about commenting on that or incorporating those recommendations into what the transportation group is talking about. That's my update on that. Next thing is tools of the trade 2024. So we had at some point said we were gonna do it every 2 years. We did it, I believe, in 2022 at the barn at the Bryan House. So I'm planning on doing that again, unless you all think that it's not worthwhile. Or you don't wanna go. Basically, if nobody here would go, then there's no sense in planning it for, you know, us and other employees at our agencies. So I'm gonna open it for that first. Do you all want to continue planning the tools of the trade for this year?
Can you give us an overview of what content is?
Yeah, so the idea with tools of the trade was to get people together in person. So even in 2022, we did not have like a virtual option. It was just in person. And I think maybe once or twice we did it like a whole day thing. 2022, it was more like a half. It was definitely not a full day kind of thing. We have food. And then we have presenters, about different topics. So it was one of the things on the agenda here. I need to figure out who to invite to speak. Some of the ideas that Rima and I had were to talk about the state master plan for aging. And I will say I haven't contacted anybody to see if they're even willing to come. These are just our ideas. The NADTC, National Aging and Disability Transportation Center, something like that. Their funding and their priorities. So they have funded a few projects in the capital region that we've been giving little updates on at our meeting. And I thought maybe since they seem to be interested in, I don't know if they're just funding more things nationally or more things in our region. It might be interesting to hear about what funding opportunities they might have coming up or what their focus areas are. Then also, grantees of those funded projects. the Saratoga Transportation Task Force, again, I haven't asked Andy if he or someone from his group would want to talk about it, but they are doing some interesting things and having some really interesting kind of forward-looking conversations in Saratoga County, so could be of interest. The New York State DOT updates to the state contract for vehicles, which becomes relevant for the 5310 grantees. And then the Department of Health, disability programs. So we have talked here about the wheelchair charging station funding that they have available. And then, oh, this was a different item, but the implementation of pedestrian ADA improvements on streets. We are in our office working on plans for municipalities to like prioritize pedestrian improvements to be better in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. But we could maybe hear, how the implementation of that is going for municipalities that have had a plan in place for a few years. So those are ideas. I mean, if you all had other ideas of things that you might want to hear about, or you think, you and people at other agencies would want to hear about, or if you would want to present about something your agency is doing, definitely would be open to that. But that's the kind of thing that we tend to do at the Tools of the Trade. One year we had that doctor guy talk about loneliness and isolation and the impacts that can have on people's health. That was during COVID. That was a virtual only one that we did. But it is a good amount of work to put together. And people have to take time out of their day to come to the event too. And I know there has been some staffing constraints at agencies, so I don't know if that might change how people feel about personally coming or having staff come to an event as well. So, anybody thoughts for, thoughts against?
This is Denise. I'll just say that, I think I've been to most of the Tools of the Trade. I might have missed one or two, but, I've always found them to be interesting, and we've sent staff before, to them. So I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good way to, get information out to folks who may not necessarily be as involved in transportation issues or, even related issues, so.
And,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Diane.
I was just, this is Diane from Colony Senior Service Center. So the doctor was Dr. Kevin Costello.
Yeah.
Carrie, yeah. And I think the Tools of the Trade, I've been to at least 2 or 3 of them. I think they're very good in just opportunities to network, since our little universe gets smaller and smaller. And having Jane or someone else from NADTC, I think would be really great.
Okay. That's good to know.
And then the Prine House is reworking everything, so their fee schedule's gone up, and I don't even know if they're renting this year, so that you might have to have another option. Were you having a time frame there, Carrie?
I was gonna suggest a Thursday in June, just because that's what we did the last time.
Okay, all right, because depending upon what day or when we could possibly we could host it here at Beltron if you want, and we're going to be opening up that other campus on Waterville Shaker Road. That's June would be probably a little tight there, but then it cuts down on the overall cost.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for those tips. Did Andy want to? It sounded like Andy was gonna.
Yeah, we were thinking of doing a summit of some sort this year for Saratoga. More about sharing what we're trying to do, generate interest, may bring a few new ideas and gather people together. So we were thinking June, so maybe I should talk with you, Marquet, first about that as far as timing and maybe, what we could do together, seeing we be covering similar ideas. I love the idea of bringing people together and be my first tools of this week.
Yeah, I wonder if we could talk about doing something back to back, like if you're, I don't know, if you're thinking a full day thing, but if we were both gonna do like a half day thing. And then
Yeah.
they would go to the whole day and there, then, the rest of us could be either whichever way.
Yeah, we should talk more. Yeah, we were thinking half day, 2.5 hours, maybe at most. Avoid food, because I really don't have much of a budget for that. But yeah, we could coordinate.
Okay,
Indeed, could combine the events, morning session, afternoon session with a nice federally funded lunch in the middle.
Yeah, there you go.
Last year there was a little breakfast and lunch.
Just you can't have cocktail.
Just FYI, there is good food,
well, we need to not spend so much money this time.
oh, there's too much money for the parent, but it was good food.
Well, if you don't have to pay for the room,
Yeah.
you can add it to the food or the happy hour at 5.
Mhm.
Well, I'll
Yeah,
see if I can
yeah.
talk to Andy, because we might wanna have it like in southern Saratoga, if he's, if it's partially a Saratoga thing, then it would be weird to have it in.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure we can find some place. Great.
Okay, so I think I'll move, sorry, Andy, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say thank you.
I'll move forward with planning this out, any other thoughts on presenters or topics? I heard a yay on NABTC. Not our funded projects, but from that agency. Anything that I said that you think was a bad idea?
Did you do, did we have a speaker on volunteers last time too?
We definitely had speakers on volunteers. I would have to
I
go
don't-
back and look if it was last time.
Can't remember.
So you think if it wasn't last time?
Some
do
new
that
ideas
again?
on how to
Okay,
recruit volunteers for programs that are volunteer based. Anybody have
Okay.
any?
Diane, again, I know this sounds crazy, but you'd have a tremendous turnout. Is that Dr. Ruth, the governor appointed her our ambassador of loneliness?
Dr. Ruth?
Dr. Ruth Westheimer?
Yeah, the Dr. Ruth, yeah, she has an appointment.
Oh,
She's supposed to get us all happy, yeah.
okay.
The timing, if you want to talk about the master plan for aging, might be interesting because it might be available for like a comment at that time.
Yeah, July is like the final publishing, right?
I think so.
Eugene?
Hmm?
What, who did you
State
say?
master plan for aging.
Oh, I thought, I thought you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
There's also, there's been an Olmsted Advisory Committee or MISC Advisory Committee that's been around for years, developing an Olmsted implementation plan, and that's the plan to get people out of institutional settings and into the community. And of course, transportation is always a big part of that, housing, transportation, all of those things. But in the governor's budget message this year, she said there will be an Olmsted implementation plan, a new plan, and I'm one of the people that serves on that Olmsted committee, the work group. We have a new chief disability officer in the executive chamber, and we might, maybe even Kim Hill or somebody from her office would be somebody who would want to come and speak. You know, we'll be doing probably some public input on that maybe by then also. So I'm not sure
Okay.
what the timeline's going to be. But they're kind of coinciding, you know, both the master plan on aging and the Olmsted implementation plan. So,
And you would know more about that, so I could talk to you more, or is there somebody else that I should?
yeah, definitely. I can talk to you and get you connected to anybody else who you need to talk to, but
Okay,
they just hired a coordinator for the plan, Shelley Midori. So she's working in the chief disability officer's office.
okay. What's going on right now? Yeah. All right. Anything else? Okay. Next thing I had on the agenda was the final coordinated plan, and there's a link to it that's in the, I think I sent out a Word document of the agenda. And the date is that it was adopted December 7th, 2023. Put that on there because that is a question on the 5310 solicitation. So if you're applying for that, you need that date. And then you're also gonna need to know what page numbers, you know, where your project is reflected in the document. So it's for most projects, I think you can use the needs, gaps, and barriers page, which should just be one page number. So it was finally adopted December 7th as our policy board, which is our, you know, main decision-making board. So it's the final adoption of that did happen. Section 5310 funding, the applications are due next Monday. That's why I moved this meeting up, so it didn't conflict on the same day. And then otherwise, we've been told that we being the state, Audrey, correct me if I'm wrong here, but that we expect the awards will be added to the state funding list by June. And that's to enable them to get it into the federal grant in time without anything lapsing or, you know, not happening in a timely manner. So we should be seeing them come forward to our planning committee, our board approvals in May or June, I believe it's June will be our policy board meeting. Do we need to have any discussion on that? Are people working on those and have questions? Okay. Updates, the Department of Health is working on a document about wheelchairs losing power. And so they told me I could share it. I should be sharing something that says at the top what to do when motorized wheelchairs lose power. It's a 2-page document so far. And so we're not supposed to share this publicly because they're not finished with it yet, but they've done a round or two of edits clarifying their language. And if anybody attending or if you have somebody in your office who you think would be good to provide edits, I can send you the Word document for that purpose, but not for posting publicly. I think it's geared for if there's an emergency and or some kind of like catastrophe happening and you're like an emergency responder or, you know, helping somebody that you don't know. And there's a electric wheelchair and it's not working, basically.
I'd be willing to take a look at that as a power wheelchair user and one who has experienced this before.
Okay. Does anybody else want me to send it to you for review?
Hey, Carrie, it's Brian. Are they looking for, we work with a lot of individuals who also utilize wheelchairs. Are they looking for input from that too?
They just said don't distribute publicly,
Yeah, I mean, if I have it, I could kind of generate some questions based on that.
Right.
So if you want to send it, that's fine. I could take a look and see how I can, make that work.
okay. I will send it to you and you can show it to whoever you want to show it to, for purposes of review.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
So
Hey, Carrie, could you send that to me also? Does Joe Bonarigo, Albany County Sex Office?
Yes. Thank
you.
And who's the second?
is
Brian?
this going to be used as a training for first responders, or who is this going to go to?
I have not asked that question, actually. I can ask I'll ask before I send it to you guys, so you have more context as you're reviewing.
Thank you.
Who is the intended audience? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Next thing I have, Andy, the Saratoga County Transportation Task Force, has been able to put together some priorities. I thought maybe just letting the group know
Yeah.
those.
Well, great, thank you. Yeah, we spent probably more time than we need to, but it was a big ask to figure out from everyone involved what we should be prioritizing. So what we've come up with is, our goal is finding at transportation options, ways to coordinate better for low-income households, individuals, vulnerable populations, seniors, and others who lack access to reliable vehicles. So, three of our state priorities right now revolve around working pretty heavily with CTA. So, priority number one, since they merged with Grade 1 for transit, we really want to push them to establish a connection with lower southern Warren County and northern Saratoga, primarily exit 17 and exit 15 along the through Northway there, hopefully along the Route 9 corridor. Idea being, can they connect the two communities, get rid of that transportation desert, and is there a way to bring in South Grand Falls, Monroe, Corinth, Wilton, and some other communities in and around there who have really lacked access to transportation. So really look to maybe be a pilot community for us where we can collaborate with current providers and see if there is a model where we can influence CTA and support them with ridership from organizations if they can establish that quarter. So that's priority one. Priority two is on east-west connector. in Saratoga somewhere. We would prefer Route 67 along Boston Spa to Malta and hopefully create connection east-west in the county. Again, leveraging CJ with a flex bus, maybe STAR program, some other way to have a connector for those communities. And again, if we can influence nonprofits and others to help how we drive in or get people into that corridor to help access the services along there and eventually make connection to the current Route 50 bus right now. I would say our third priority we all agree on, and it'll be much longer and further out, but work along the Route 9 corridor from Saratoga all the way through Saratoga County to get to Albany County, and establish another north-south corridor for the county. Again, heavy influence with CTA, but we'll have to work with town supervisors, the county board supervisors, and others to help establish infrastructure to support that too. And then fourth priority for us is continue to look at the aging population and how can we coordinate our efforts better around Saratoga County. Where the gaps exist, how can we communicate better? How can we increase potential more option for seniors? So our groups agree on all those. Our job now is basically putting money in, start to get in front of elected officials and other stakeholders to let them know what we're driving towards.
Thank you.
Yeah. Happy to answer any questions too.
Any questions for Andy? Great, thanks, Andy. Next thing
Thank you.
are the pedestrian infrastructure transition plans that our office is working on. The Village of Boston Spa actually adopted theirs at their village board meeting. Is today a Tuesday? I think it was early, it was Monday.
It's Monday.
It was last week, then it was definitely last week. Early last week, they adopted it at a village board meeting, and then the city of Troy and the town of Guilderland drafts are still under internal review. It does look like the Guilderland one, we may be able to condense most, if not all of the, necessary changes to bring things into compliance into 1 year, not including the curb ramps, and the sidewalks along state roads. So we're saying they'll coordinate with the state on the timing of those, but for the purely town ones that we think they may be able to get those done fairly quickly. But Troy will definitely need a number of years in theirs to bring things to compliance. And public comment is required for those, so we will be posting them. At the very least, we will be posting them to the municipal websites for comment. And then are there any questions about those? Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, I just had that on here, as an update, we almost have selected a consultant for that project, but we don't have a signed contract yet. However, we are planning on, using our February 22nd Regional Operations and Safety Advisory Committee as, our kind of official kickoff, for that project. Again, assuming the contract actually gets signed, but I'm hopeful for that. So that end of February will be, mid to end of February will be the actual start for that project. And we'll be talking about what public input we want to do. We are required to do public input and we do want to do public input. So we're doing something. And then also our definitions of underserved communities. We're required to have a focus on that under the federal requirements for the grant, but we can do it in different ways. So, we have our environmental justice census tracts that we use in this region, but we can include other things, if we want to. So that will be part of the planning process in that grant. And then we're up to news around the table. Why don't we start online? Denise, do you have anything? Okay.
No,
Andy, did
not
you-
done.
Andy, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? All right. Audrey,
No updates.
thank you. Donna?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. To be?
No update, thank you.
Rachel?
Nothing to add, thanks.
Okay. Diane, did you have anything else?
I just wanted to announce that we were able to get a priority project last year and ordered a bus with it, and we were expecting it in the summer, and it showed up last week. So we have a new bus, so bus 203. So we're very, very happy about that.
Super.
Yeah.
Joseph?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Angelina? Judy? Rima? No. Mark? All right. So our next meeting would be by our normal schedule, Monday, May 6th. I put, well, I always have a question mark, but also if we do the tools of the trade in June, do we want to not hold that meeting? It's one way to look at it. We could also look at it that we would hold the meeting to kind of confirm what we're doing with the tools of the trade, which Judy is nodding yes to. All right, so we'll plan to have the meeting on Monday, May 6th. Are there any scheduling? That's not like a holiday or a school holiday week? Okay, so Monday, May 6th at 2 p.m. will be our next regularly scheduled meeting. And I will follow up with a few of you on the tools of the trade ideas. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.